The new MechWarrior 5 Mercs DLC, Shadow of Kerensky, is finally here, and today we're going to explore whether or not I think this DLC is worth checking out. Spoiler alert, it is.
Solid copy. We'll give them hell.
Target destroyed.
Alright, first let's look at what's actually included in the DLC. You get a 12 mission campaign, a reshaped map of the inner sphere that reflects the clan invasion, new mechs, weapons, enemy types, 17 new biomes, and a system where pilots can have unique traits that give bonuses to various systems. We're going to dive into more detail on all of these, and just FYI, this is all going to be on a 100% vanilla install, so no mods today. But before we begin, I just want to say that I'm coming into this after having just very recently played through MechWarrior 5 Clans, which puts you on the other side of the clan invasion, and I personally think that this DLC does a much better job of conveying the feeling of the difference in power between Inner Sphere and clan mechs. This tech feels very powerful, and going up against it can feel outright oppressive at times, which is how it should be. Even after I managed to get my hands on some clan tech of my own, it was still an uphill battle. I think this DLC does an excellent job of making you feel like the underdog, undergunned, and outmatched. Okay, let's talk story. We're going to keep this short and sweet for the purpose of avoiding spoilers. You're back in the shoes of mercenary Commander Mason, having just recently accepted a contract to help deal with some pesky pirates. But, as you probably already know, these are certainly no pirates, but instead something far, far worse.
I see it too.
We got hit! We got outside of what our sensors could detect. What are we gonna do? Where will we go? Anyone can hit on those mechs. Didn't recognize any of them. Call themselves ghost spears? Those things swarmed our mechs.
The clan invasion has begun, and the entire inner sphere is caught completely off guard by the sheer power and brutality the clans bring to the table. But it's possible that our little merc outfit may very well have a larger role to play in the events that are unfolding. As far as playtime is concerned, I would expect you to get somewhere around 8 hours or so out of the campaign in full, depending on how distracted you get messing around with customization, how many times you have to retry missions, etc. This is probably going to depend too on how you're going into the campaign. For my playthrough, I did a fresh career start and selected Shadow of Kerensky as my starting location. However, if you're accessing this from a pre-existing career, the battle mechs you already have at your disposal are going to vary. All of my career saves at this point are modded, so this was really my only option, but I'd be curious to see how accessing this from a pre-existing save went. Let me know down below if you did, and how you managed. Personally, I think I lost, or at the very least, had more mechs severely damaged in this 12 mission run than in any of my recent career playtime. The clanners are absolutely no joke, and this is further compounded on by the fact that for certain stretches of your run, you lose the ability to control your ship's destination. So it's not like you can take a break and run some lower level contracts to get your money up or get better mechs. Once you lock into certain parts of this, you're in it for the proverbial long haul. But overall, I'd give the campaign a big thumbs up. The presentation was absolutely superb thanks to some gorgeous pre-rendered cutscenes, and facing off against clan tech felt as terrifying as it should. Alright, let's move on to gameplay. I'm not going to do a full breakdown of every minute detail of MechWarrior 5 Mercs since it's mostly unchanged, but I do want to touch on some of the things that this DLC adds. Obviously, the big standout here is clan tech, both the weapons and mechs. With a total of 16 new battle mechs to potentially have at your disposal, as well as elementals to face off against, all supplemented by clan weaponry, I've never felt more powerful in a MechWarrior game. I mentioned earlier the disparity in power that you experience when Inner Sphere meets clan tech, and yeah, I wasn't kidding. Obviously, I felt this very strongly in the early stages of the story when I was on the receiving end of this, but man, afterwards, when I went back and ran some standard Inner Sphere contracts, I couldn't believe the difference in power level. It was staggering.
Target destroyed. Target Marauder.
And this is all without having fully optimized builds, or upgrades for that matter. Which, while we're on the topic of builds, we may as well touch on how the mech lab is handled for both clan mechs and their weaponry. Weaponry is handled the same as any other weaponry in the game. There are small, medium, and large sized weapons that fit into their corresponding slots as you'd expect. They aren't restricted in any way either, so you're free to fit them onto your inner sphere mechs if you have the tonnage available. Fitting for clan mechs is handled basically the same as any other mech, but instead of having your typical hardpoints that are restricted to certain weapon types, these sometimes feature what are called omni slots, which are basically hardpoints that allow you to fit any weapon type in them as long as they're the same size or smaller than the corresponding hardpoint. It's worth noting that not all of the available slots on clan mechs are omni slots, only some are, but even still, this does grant a nice amount of freedom when coming up with builds. In addition to all the fancy clan tech, the DLC does also offer some additional variants for inner sphere mechs, as well as additional weapon types, which is a nice addition as well. There's also a brand new to the game chassis in the form of the Bull Shark, which I haven't gotten my hands on this in my career playthrough yet, but I was messing around with it in instant action, and yeah, this thing is an absolute monster. As far as biomes are concerned, I wasn't really keeping count, so I'm not too sure if I've encountered all of these yet, but I have noticed some much needed added variety when running contracts, so this is definitely a welcome addition. Pilot traits are another new feature the DLC offers, and it sort of goes hand in hand with a new mechanic that comes in the form of what are called virtual world centers. These are essentially schools that you can send your pilots to in order to level them up, increase their skill caps, and possibly earn traits. You'll see these on pilots when you're viewing them in the barracks, and they take on the form of all sorts of different bonuses. Things like reduced spread for specific missile systems, movement speed bonuses for certain mech classes or chassis, reduced heat generation, etc. There are even some negative ones that I came across too, like Bad Patient, which causes slower pilot health recovery, and Greedy. When you put all these things together, I think this really does a great job of improving the already vast sandbox that Mercs offers. I can already imagine how starting a fresh career run now will just feel different, because you know you're racing against the clock until the clan invasion begins. The clan mechs and weapons have been an absolute joy to pilot and use so far, and I've yet to even try them all. Oh, and I think elementals now take the crown for being the absolutely most annoying enemies in the game, or the dashers. I haven't decided yet. So to summarize, if you're already a fan of MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries, get this DLC, you won't regret it, even at full price. I was a little hesitant going back to vanilla since I've been playing with yet another mech lab for so long, but remember, you can always use the beta feature on Steam to go back to previous versions of the game. So you can play the DLC as much as you want, then go back to the previous version and play with YAML yet again. The creators of that mod are already working on an update, so rest assured that we'll have YAML again with the latest version of the game in the future. Let me know your thoughts on Shadow of Kerensky down below, and as always, thanks for watching. Until next time.